Episode number 70 of the Monday Morning Worship Leader Podcast. Sacrament or Ordinances.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures give His glory. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Well, hey guys, Brother John here. So good to be with you on this podcast on this Monday, August 4th. And it is the beginning of August, and I am cleaning out my office, and it is boring. I hate doing this kind of stuff, but I just about have to do it every year. You just kind of accumulate stuff that you think is important at the moment, and then it kind of goes away. And that's kind of how life can be sometimes. But I hope that you find these weekly installations to be somewhat important to you as you think about worship and worship leading. Well, today I want to talk about something pretty quickly, and it's something that sometimes a worship leader, especially in the free worship evangelical tradition, we don't think of when we think of worship. When we think of worship, we think of music. I mean, and people will tell me all the time, well, worship is more than music. Well, yeah, I know, but oftentimes our lifestyle doesn't necessarily prove it. But you have to understand that really the crux of worship and the true first worship wars we ever had was not over music. It was over the ordinances of the church, or as some would call them, sacraments, being the Lord's Supper and baptism in particular. Now, we Baptists call those ordinances. Some denominations of Christians, including Catholicism, know of them as sacraments. And so, with that, I just kind of want to throw this sacrament versus ordinances at you today and just kind of let you see what you think and how you feel about all this. So we used to be unified in how we looked at the Lord's Supper and baptism. And we did all call them sacraments. You know, as I've said before in this podcast, we were all Catholics if we look at our lineage, and it wasn't until the Protestant Reformation that things changed. But back then, our forebears, who were Christians, would all think of them as the same thing, the sacraments of the church. That being the case, there was no problem with it. Now, we have to understand, first of all, the nature of the sacraments to the church. We need to take a look at the word sacrament for just a minute, because sacrament means sacred mystery. All right? Just chew on that for a moment. It's a sacred mystery of the church. These actions that we take in baptism and Lord's Supper. And with that, there is a salvific handle that is attached to it, where to some extent your salvation is reliant upon these two actions. And so, naturally, the term sacraments, sacred mystery, is rather appropriate. However, when the Reformation happened, and especially when we see the regular Baptists and the particular Baptists and how they're looking at everything, we see them going in a different direction. We see them going in the word ordinance. And ordinance basically means order. These are two things that Christ commanded us to do, baptizing all people. And then also, as often as you do this, think of me. As often as you do this, being the Lord's Supper. And so we started calling them ordinances. Now, I will tell you that when we look at early Baptist literature, even from some of the most hardened Baptists, people like Benjamin Keach, they refer to them as sacraments. And so that holdover is going to be with us for a long time. And it could still be with us. But why is this important? Well, it's important in how we view and how we present these things. Okay, the word sacraments may sound kind of cooler than ordinances, but the weight of that word is very important, and I think you have to think of it very carefully when you think of worship. Is what we are doing a memorial, and I think it is a memoriam that we do. I think that it is an advanced memoriam. I think it has great implications. Don't get me wrong. I think baptism is very important. I think the Lord's Supper is very important, but it is there to remind us, for us to remember. And so while that is important, it is not salvific, nor does it impart a special grace, at least according to the Baptist theology and tradition. And so when we think of the word sacrament, it does imply a special means of grace. And I think we have to be very careful. Words are important, and I hope you do find them to be good. Well, today's good word, okay, I'm going along with the theme, and this may seem a little antithetical from what I was talking about, but I would love to suggest a book written in the Catholic tradition about the ordinance of the Lord's Supper called Eating Beauty by Astell. Eating Beauty, the Eucharist, which, by the way, Eucharist means thanks. And so when we take the Eucharist, and actually, you can call the Lord's Supper a Eucharist. I know I'm kind of going off this wagon a little bit, but you can call it Eucharist and be biblical, because when it says that Jesus took the bread and Eucharisto gave thanks. And so this book, going back to that, is called Eating Beauty, the Eucharist, and the Spiritual Arts of the Middle Ages by Astell. This is written from a Catholic transubstantiation point of view of the Lord's Supper, but I'm telling you, this is a fantastic book. It is just, it's not a light read, but it is historical, and it takes a look at really the Catholic concept and observance of the Lord's Supper through the eyes of many, many Christians who have gone before us. It is a fascinating book, and I can't recommend it highly enough, just understanding that this is not Baptist tradition. This is written in the Catholic tradition, but again, fantastic book, Eating Beauty by Anne W. Astell. And that's it for today's Monday Morning Worship Leader. I hope that you've found this to be helpful, maybe even clearing up something that you have thought about and even wondered about. Something that I did for many years until I looked into it a little bit more. And so I hope that you find that very, very helpful for you. Just remember, my friends, we are not rock stars. We are servants. God bless you. Next time in my recurring series of From My Worship Bible, I open up my Worship Leader's Bible, this big thing that I have, and I talk about Exodus 24, a fascinating book.
Next time on the podcast.